Huge shout out to the newest member of the STP 1200 Club, Mr. Sean Moran with Red Barn Financial. Are you seeking a financial advisor who shares your values? Sean Moran at Red Barn Financial offers faith-based financial guidance. We'll help you make sound financial decisions that align with your Christian beliefs. Call Sean today at 615-619-6919 for more information. Big thank you to you, Sean, for supporting the 1200 Club. Be sure to reach out to Sean. He is amazing at what he does and an amazing resource for all things financial advising. Thanks again, Sean.
Hello and welcome back to Conversations in Faith.
Guided by Grace. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Jen. And today we have two very special guests joining us who have a very special ministry that they are a part of. And we are really excited to have them here. So without further ado, introduce yourselves and then we'll get the ball rolling on all the good things we have to share today.
Well, we are super excited to be here too. Yeah. Do you want to start? Or
okay.
Mm-hmm. So I'm Patrece McCrary, and I am with Lifewise Academy. We are with Lifewise Academy, and we hope you get as excited about it as we are. We both are just ecstatic about Lifewise, and it's my mission in life. So this is our director. I'll let her introduce herself.
I'm Susan Buback, and I'm the area director for Lifewise Academy, Rutherford County. So I've been in this position since November. So we're very, very new here. So we're just trying to educate the public of what our mission is, and then put that into action. We're so excited. I learned a little bit about Lifewise recently, and it's a beautiful organization with just a really good, pure mission and goal. Can you guys tell us a little bit about what Lifewise is for people who haven't heard before?
Yeah, so it's a Bible-based character education. That's our mission, is to bring the Bible to public school kids during school hours, which that's the difference, because I know there's a lot of after school or before school kind of things, but this is during school hours because we're trying to remove as many barriers as possible. So, because some parents, they just can't get their kids there before or after school, or they've got, sports and other activities and that kind of thing. So this eliminates as many barriers as possible and allows us to get the gospel into to the public school kids.
And you mentioned character development. So this was I do not have children, and I don't really have a lot of like young kids who are going to school in my like immediate life. So I wasn't even aware that character development classes were a thing. And my mom's a teacher. I do not remember this being a thing. First of all, how cool is that?
I love it.
Second of all, when you mentioned character development, you had said that they were using another book,
which is not exactly godly.
The book that I grew up reading, but like I don't know that that's where I want my character development to come from. But Harry Potter.
Yes.
So that's like the curriculum that they're using to teach
in many of our schools. Yes, it is. And so I was a public school teacher for 31 years. Yeah. And when I first started, it was so different than by the time I finished. And then the last 15 years since retiring, I just dated myself, didn't I? But I have been a private tutor. Yeah. And I have just seen such a downhill slide in character and even just knowledge of how to relate to people. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's been kind of distressing to me, and I'm really excited about getting to see this come in. Yeah. I know we used various curriculums to teach character while I was a teacher. The thing is, that's not tested. Yeah. And only tested things really get the teacher's focus because they have to. Yeah. So this is so exciting because of the way we're able to take the kids during a non-tested curriculum time.
Yeah.
and help them learn a character trait that they can take back and practice.
Yeah, and people who are passionate about it. Like you said, sometimes, if teachers know that there's a mark that needs to be met as far as like testing goes, that's going to be what takes the priority. So having two people who passionately love the Lord be the ones that are teaching the kids and engage and getting the kids excited and engaged with this program is really encouraging and exciting too, because you have a different fire underneath you than maybe somebody who's just kind of checking the box of like, okay, we have to do this class, but it's not going to be tested, so it's maybe not quite as important of a focus. So
yeah, and it doesn't take away from any of the other
like core
things that
curriculum.
core curriculums that the kids have to learn. But if I was understanding correctly, it's an option such as like an art class maybe would be or something like that. And so it's just a cool way to introduce the gospel, to kids who maybe wouldn't otherwise receive it. So yeah, I just thought that was very cool.
Yeah, we always do it during like either their special areas time, which is art, music, gym, things like that. This is another option for them. And then some schools do during lunch, some schools do during study hall, things like that. But we never take away from those core classes like math, English, those kinds of things. Because we're there, we really want to support the school. We want to support the administrators and the teachers, and we're there to be a blessing, not a burden, to them. So
yes, we want our class to really improve everything, to help improve the climate of the school. And the kids only come one day a week. I've had a lot of people ask me that, but because we do say during special areas, but it's during one of their special areas each week, and it is parent permitted. So only if their parents want them to.
Yeah. So it seems like it really goes along nicely with like it's what's the word? Comparable, supplemental to what the school system already has going. It's not like it's trying to go through and cut down anything or replace anything, but it's just a cool way to come alongside what they're already doing and just have a nice addition. So that's really beautiful. Are y'all able to share kind of how it's working with the school that you've already partnered with, just to kind of share what it could look like for future partners?
Yeah, we started in Stewartsboro Elementary in Smyrna in the 5th grade. That's been our pilot program. And so we have 11 students this year, and that was honestly without advertising or anything. We just sent home permission slips and a little cover letter that said, hey, this is what we're doing if you're interested. And so, we have 11 precious kids. I love them already. But they just come and we meet at Life Point Church in Smyrna. So we basically, we pick them up in a bus. We take them over there. We do that little, not quite an hour of class, and then we bus them back before their next class starts. And we use that time even on the bus to like review last week's lesson, to maybe practice a Bible verse, to go over the character qualities that we've been studying and that kind of thing, because we do teach them different Bible stories. Like we started with creation and how sin entered the world and Noah and the ark and things like that. But we always attach a character quality to those stories, and then we show them how they can apply that in their life.
The application. That's
yes.
the key.
I want
how
to
walk
take
it
this
out.
class.
Yeah.
Do you have an adult
Likewise,
version
for
of this as well?
You can be a volunteer.
I think that's just it's such a needed, like, again, I was jazzed up when you said that there were character development classes. I think this is such a needed thing in our community, overall. One of our friends, Kristen, was talking about, she was out at a restaurant somewhere and she heard these young kids, maybe 13, 14, 15, somewhere in there, just cussing up a storm, being loud, being rude, just being a little vulgar. And she had a 1-year-old with her and 1.5, old enough to understand words.
Yeah.
And she turns around, she's like, hey, can y'all please not, cuss? I have my baby here. Like, please, we're trying to have a nice dinner. And they basically were like, you're not my boss. I'm going to do whatever I want. And I was just like, oh my goodness. Like, what on, I cannot imagine in a million years speaking that way to anybody, let alone like an adult in a public place. And so I know that there is definitely, you think of like, kids are going to learn one way or another, and who is teaching them. And a lot of times it's social media, it's TikTok, it's, it's video games, it's TV shows. And so who better to who better of a model of character to look at than Jesus, you know, whose top two rules were love God, love others. You know, if that's your guiding principle, you know, you just can't, regardless of what faith beliefs you have. I mean, you can't go wrong when that's your heart posture is to love others and to be a blessing to others. So I'm just all kinds of jazzed about this. What are some other character traits that that the kids get to learn about?
Well, the very first week we talked about gratitude, and so and we encouraged them to go back to the school and not only say thank you, but act, you know, try to see what kind of actions they could use that would show gratitude.
Yeah.
So, and that was fun, helping them think up ways to do that.
Yeah.
And we realized on the way back, they didn't actually know what gratitude meant.
Oh.
So we went the whole lesson, we talked to them gratitude.
Yeah.
And then we were just having a conversation with them on the way back, reviewing it. And I said, so who can tell me what gratitude means? And they're like, yeah, we don't really know. It's like, okay, let's start over. Right. So, you know, we just kind of broke it down. And so we realized some of these things we take for granted that we've just grown up with and known. Even the stories, there were only 4 of the kids that knew Noah and the ark, that had heard it before. And there was a little boy who, you know, when we were talking about where people came from, how they were created, he's like, wasn't it like on a farm in heaven or something? They grew there or something. And we're like, well, it's the Garden of Eden on earth, but you know, but we'll learn about that today, you know? So I think we just kind of take for granted that they're going to know these things and they don't. But some of the other things we talked about were, you know, gratitude, respect, patience. You know, there's going to be peace is coming up that we're going to be talking about, and there's such an epidemic of depression and oppression, and just
even in our little kids, like it is heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking. I've heard stories of children who are like in elementary school, middle school, wanting to commit suicide, like feeling just hopelessness at a young, tender age. And so I think it's just so cool, especially the audience being public school, you know. It's a very beautiful way to introduce Jesus to people, these young kids and the gospel. And so, and like what you were saying about how you start as soon as you get on the bus, and it seems like even on your way back, you're using that time wisely. Definitely. And that's so cool. Like you were able to catch like, oh, like we need to go a little bit deeper on what gratitude is, and like use that time even in traveling to like, tell them about that. I wanted to ask about, because I've heard a few stories from Miss Patrece, and like one just really touched my heart, but I just want to hear of some of the impacts that you guys have had. I know it's relatively new, maybe in Rutherford County, but Lifewise is nationwide ministry. So share some of the impacts you guys have had.
Do you want to share about Christian?
I would love to share about Christian because my spine is tingling already because when I talk about him, it's just amazing. A little bitty child, maybe 6 years old, 7 years old, but he had not even heard the name of Jesus before he started learning about it in Lifewise. The teacher reached out to his mom and invited them to come to church. Christian brought his whole family came to church. His mom and he got baptized together eventually. It wasn't immediate,
right?
But then also he was listening to a message at church, and I chime in if I don't get it right, but the youth leader was teaching a message at church, and he was talking about how Jesus died for our sins, and Christian came up to him at the end, and he said, I just need to make sure you know that Jesus is not dead. He's alive. Oh my gosh. Wow. So he got it deep down in his heart.
That is awesome.
And the youth minister is like, yes, I do know that. I'm so glad you know that too.
Yeah.
So, that is beautiful.
So
and you said
sweet little story.
that he wasn't, like he didn't even know who Jesus was beforehand.
Right.
And then
never gone to church.
His family was introduced to the gospel through it. And I
his
think
mother
that
says that she doesn't know where their family would be today if it hadn't been for that.
Yeah.
So it's really amazing. And then there's, it just left me. I thought of another story just about the time I started to say that. I'm looking really silly.
Was that
No,
the
it's okay.
same little boy who went because it was his friends that wanted to go?
No, but that's okay. So that's the story I was thinking
Okay.
of.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I didn't know. I thought it was the
Thank you, Holy
same.
Spirit.
There we go. Spirit.
about the little girls that came back to school and taught their friend. Do you want to tell that one?
Yeah, because they have to have parent permission, and so these girls, they had a friend that their parents were not giving them permission. They didn't want them to go, but these girls would come back. I can't remember if it was lunch or recess or whatever, but they would teach this girl what they had learned that day in Lifewise class, and so this little girl got to hear it, and then she would go home and share. And I believe eventually her parents did give her permission to go, and so she ended up being one of their classmates.
I love
eventually,
that.
but
That is
that's
so
the
cool.
thing is we don't want to just reach these kids. We want to reach their families.
Yeah.
Parents will do whatever to that what they think is best for their kids.
Yeah.
And so when they see that this is
And they see the
positively impacting their children, they want more of that, and so then they're going to be more involved and. So that's what our hope is.
I think I think about because I was a prodigal daughter. I grew up in church, and then I left the church, and I had at that time I had all these ideas about I had a lot of church hurt, like so many people have had of people. It's a fallen, broken world, and Christians are part of that, and we sometimes miss the mark too. And so I had kind of a bad taste in my mouth about it, and that made me put up a lot of barriers when people would try to share the gospel with me. And I think kids don't have those barriers, but sometimes parents, in effort to protect their kids, they feel like they're protecting their kids from some of the maybe hypocrisy and church hurt that they've experienced. And so when their kid comes home and they get to share who Jesus actually was, which is not this broken, hypocritical, religious spirit that they've faced, and they actually meet who Jesus really was via their child. What a cool transformation. And then their parents get to see, okay, I guess we didn't actually meet Jesus before. We met people who are fallen and broken and sometimes miss the mark too. So that's kind of cool.
The statistics show ages 4 to 14, there's a 40% chance of them accepting the gospel, but after age 14, it drops to 4%.
Yep.
So that's why we actually have curriculum elementary through high school, but we really want to focus on the elementary first. That's why we're trying to start in elementary schools, and then build. Because actually we've already had some of our fifth graders like, I want to do Lifewise next year. Can we do it? And we were like, we weren't planning on it, but actually maybe we need to think about that because we can follow them, and just grow with them. But we're hoping to open like 5 schools next year.
Oh,
So,
amen. That's awesome.
Yeah, and 5 schools every year is our goal. But
And some more classrooms at Sturtsboro. So.
yes,
Wonderful.
and just more than 5th grade because we can do first through 5th grade in the elementary schools. We have curriculum for all of that, and so if they start in 1st grade and go all the way through 5th, they'll have gone from Genesis to Revelation.
That's really cool.
In their elementary school years.
Which
So
most
it's
adults don't even
know,
Or
right?
adults who are going to church half the time haven't made it all the way
Yes.
through the Bible.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to think that that's something that they can offer and the ripple effect that it gets to have. And again, it benefits the school too because these kids are learning really important life skills that they can apply to have positive impact on the way that they do everything in their life, their schoolwork, their homework, their interactions and relationships with their friends. So, I mean, it's just making little tiny humans be better versions of
And I
themselves.
feel like the emphasis on character development will be a blessing to the teachers and stuff too.
Well, we've had a lot
to
of
the community.
testimonials from
Yes.
school superintendents, teachers, school principals that they might
They're
be
seeing
hesitant
it.
at first because there's that big church and state
and
thing,
state,
But once they see it in action, they get excited about it too. But since I mentioned church and state,
Yeah,
do y'all
let's go
already
there.
have that question? And
Yeah, go there.
Yeah, go ahead.
Tell us, how is this possible? How is
Yeah,
this legal?
let's make sure we cover that. Well, the Supreme Court says it's legal. In 1952, actually, the Supreme Court made it legal, but they said it had to be done off school grounds.
Okay.
And there were 3 caveats: off school grounds,
Yep.
with parent permission and with no government funding.
Yeah.
And so I guess the parent permission and the no government funding would be the easy ones in that, of those three. But off school grounds made it a little less doable.
Yeah.
But the founder of Lifewise came up with a kind of a plug and play system that makes it pretty easy to get it up and rolling. And so, yes, it is legal, and it's happening. It's happening right here.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so if someone's listening to this and they're wanting to know, like, okay, like, how do I get involved? Like, what can I do? Like, walk us through some of the ways that we can partner or be involved in this organization.
So we have, we are a national organization, but we have our own local program. So it's Lifewise Academy, Rutherford County. So if you go to lifewise.org/Rutherford County TN, you can find our specific website, and on there's a tab that says join the team. There's a tab that says donate. And there's all kinds of information. We've got testimonial videos on there, and just anything you want to know, you can find there. But yeah, we, especially since we are a new program, and nonprofit, obviously, we need donors, but we don't just want, I mean, obviously we'll take one-time gifts, but our goal is to create partnerships. And we even call our fundraising trust raising, because we know the Lord's called us to this, and we trust and know that He is going to supply our needs. He's our great provider, and we cannot do this in our own strength. And we want to find those people out there who have that same passion and heart for this mission, and we want them to seek the Lord and say, what do you want of me? So it might be giving financially, it might be actively being a volunteer or a teacher or being on our leadership board. We still have some spots open on that. We need ambassadors, which are basically people who go out and make those connections for us and connect us with other people and do podcasts like this. So now you all are ambassadors. Thank you so much. So yeah, we kind of need it all. We want to buy a bus. And I think there might be a picture in there. I'm not sure, but
It was a cool
just
picture.
a big red bus. It's a big red school bus that they have in a lot of locations. And it's got the Lifewise logo on it. And
I don't know if you'll be able to see it.
yeah, I don't know if you can or not, but we want one of those. And we want to just have this Lifewise bus going all through Rutherford County, picking kids up and taking them to the location and all that. But that costs money. That would probably cost us about $20,000. And it costs about $45,000 per school per year to run. So if we want to start, continue in Stewartsboro and add more grades and then be in 4 other schools, that's about $225,000 we have to raise this summer. For our 3-year plan, it's about $1.3 million. Okay. So those sound like big numbers, but our God's bigger.
God is big.
Amen.
So
And
You
if
have
I'm
not because you
remembering,
ask not.
amen. That's right, Jen. And if I'm remembering correctly, Miss Patrece said that there's a way to be like a sponsor for a child. Is that right? Could you share with us
Yes.
what that would look like?
Yeah. So you can sponsor a child for $30 a month, and you can just do a recurring donation. So you just set it up, with your account, and it'll just come out every month. And so that supplies a Bible.
Yeah.
Every child gets a Bible, and it's I think it's a Lifeway who provides them for us. Could be wrong on that, but it's they've made it for Lifewise specifically. Yeah, so it's got our colors,
love it.
and then when you open up inside, it highlights some of the stories that we highlight, and it always has a Christ connection. So every story, no matter what it is, we always bring it back to Christ and how it relates to Christ and what He's done for us.
Love it.
And so they highlight even in the Old Testament, because Christ is all the way through.
Yep.
And it shows them how it does relate to Christ.
I love that.
So,
Cool.
yeah.
And then the last thing I wanted to make sure that we talked about was part of the 3 things that were needed in order for this to work was for it to be held offsite, right? So in addition to financial support, I believe you guys are also looking for businesses and churches that are near schools.
Yes.
So if you're listening to this and you attend a church or you have a business or you know of a business that is near a school, please get in contact with them.
Yes, we would love that.
Share this
All those
with the
businesses
leadership.
host sites.
Yeah.
and we actually get our host site on board with us before we go and talk to the school principal.
Yeah.
That makes sense. You gotta have a place to take them to.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, this is a beautiful organization. Please be prayerful about how maybe you could be involved, whether it be sponsoring a child or, sharing this with the leadership at your church or of a business that that's near a school. It's a beautiful way to share the gospel, especially like some of the testimonies that they've shared with people who would have maybe not had the opportunity to otherwise. Was there anything else that you guys wanted to share about Lifewise or anything like that?
I guess just something that came to mind was 8 out of 10 kids do not go to church, but 9 out of 10 kids go to public school. So if you think about that, I mean, that's why we're trying to reach the public school kids, you know. So that's our goal. That's our passion, is to just reach those kids with the gospel.
Yeah, that's the Great Commission. I mean,
Yes.
that's what we're called to do.
Go
How many
and
of
make
us
disciples.
how many of us get stuck in this? What is my calling? What is my purpose? He told you.
Yeah, go make
Go make
disciples.
disciples.
And I was visiting a church recently. It's not the Belonging Code, but anyways, they had a mural on one of their walls, and I think it was leading to their youth department. But anyways, it said, "There is no junior Holy Spirit. You're never too little to receive the gospel. You're never too little
My
to."
husband says it all the time.
he?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
his little thing. Yeah.
So like these are precious souls that Jesus like wants to be met. Like he wants them to know him. He received the children. So you're never too young. So yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
And then one more thing I'll say too
go ahead.
is if, obviously if you can donate, if you can be involved, all those things are immediate needs, but never forget how important and useful it is for intercessory prayer.
Say the same thing,
Even,
Jen.
even if all you can do right now
Amen.
is write Lifewise at the top of your prayer list, God can work with that. Just give him what you got.
Amen. Yeah.
That was one of the first things we did, was get our prayer team in place. So we definitely absolutely need that too. And we don't think of that as just, whatever. That's like so fundamental to what we do is,
For sure.
and so you can never have too many prayer
Prayer
warriors on your
warriors.
side. So
Yeah.
we'll always, if you want to do that too, you can contact us, and you can contact me, Susan Buback at lifewise.org, and shoot me a message, and I will get you on that.
Yay. I love it.
The good thing about being actually on the official prayer team is that you get an email so that you know what our specific needs are.
Oh, that's
so
good.
That helps you to know
can be
how
intentional.
to direct your praise.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love
that's
that.
great.
Yeah,
Very
Sherry
good.
Adcock is our prayer team leader, and so she always puts those together.
Yeah, one more reason to reach out and be involved, because this is a community, and this is our community,
Yes.
right? So it's up to us. It's important to be the hands and feet, and this is the place right in front of us that the Lord has us to serve. So it's a no-brainer in my book.
Yeah, and as our community grows, we have seen changes, and maybe not always for the good sometimes, but at the same time, God's bringing all these people to us. And so it's our responsibility to reach out to them. And if we want to change our community, then you do it first with yourself, and then reaching those in your sphere of influence.
That's right.
And so this is how we can do that. And like you're saying, there's no junior Holy Spirit. So he wants to reach these little children who, again, it's going to go back to their families, and it's going to change our community for the better.
Love it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
All right,
Great. Well,
that's a wrap.
yeah, I was gonna say that's a wrap. But don't forget to reach out. Also, if you have any questions and you forget like how to reach out to them, you can reach out to Jen and I too. Jen's gonna send out an email, so you can respond to the email. We'll get you connected. But thank you guys so much for listening or watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you so much.